You walked in for milk, eggs, and maybe some chicken. You had a rough number in your head, like $40, maybe 50, tops. Simple trip. Quick in, quick out. You even told yourself that this time you weren't going to overspend.
Then you get to the checkout, $112, and you're standing there, card already tapped, bags already packed, trying to do the math in your head like, when did this happen? How did I get from $40 to $112? You didn't even buy anything crazy. No steak, no fancy wine, just stuff, normal stuff, yogurt, some snacks, a candle that smelled really good near the entrance, a 2-for-1 deal on something you don't even really need, but it felt wrong to leave it. Here's the thing, that wasn't an accident. Not even a little bit. Every single dollar you spent over your budget was planned, engineered, tested in focus groups and behavioral psychology labs by people who get paid enormous amounts of money to understand one thing: how to make you spend more than you intended. The modern grocery store isn't just a place to buy food. It is, and I mean this seriously, one of the most sophisticated psychological manipulation environments ever built. And most people walk into it completely defenseless every single week for their entire adult lives. Look, I'm not here to make you paranoid. I'm here to show you exactly what's happening so you can stop bleeding money every time you need groceries. Because this is one of those areas where the average household is losing hundreds, sometimes over $1,000 a year. Not because they're reckless, but because they genuinely don't know the game being played against them. So let's break it all down. Every trick, every trap, and most importantly, what you actually do about it. Let's start with a number that should genuinely bother you. The average American household spends around $475 a month on groceries. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Now, for a family of 4, some people will say that sounds about right, maybe even reasonable. But here's where it gets interesting. Studies on consumer behavior, including research published by Cornell University's Food and Brand Lab, consistently show that shoppers buy between 20 and 50% more than they planned when they enter a grocery store without a structured system. 20 to 50%. On a $400 grocery run, that's an extra $80 to $200 every single month. That's potentially $2,400 a year walking out of your wallet and into a corporation's revenue report, not because you're bad with money, but because the store was specifically designed to extract it from you. And the wild part, the people designing these stores know more about your shopping behavior than you do. They've studied your eye movement, they've tracked your walking patterns, they've tested which music tempo makes you slow down and spend more. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a multi-billion-dollar science called retail environment design, and grocery chains invest heavily in it every single year. So where does it start? Because it doesn't start in the cereal aisle, it doesn't start at the checkout. It starts before you even grab a cart. The entrance. This is where the manipulation begins, and most people don't even register it as manipulation because it feels so pleasant. You walk in and almost immediately you're hit with flowers, fresh produce, the smell of a bakery, maybe the warmth of a rotisserie station, and your brain, your actual biological brain, interprets all of this as abundance, freshness, quality. You feel good, you feel relaxed. And here's why that matters. When you feel good, you spend more. Research out of the Journal of Retailing found that positive emotional states directly increase unplanned purchases. The store doesn't want you stressed. Stressed people buy what's on their list and leave. Relaxed, happy people browse, they explore, they pick up things they didn't plan on picking up. The flowers and fresh produce aren't at the entrance because they're the most popular items. They're at the entrance because they set your emotional state. It's psychological priming. They're literally conditioning you to be in a receptive, generous mood before you've even grabbed a basket. And speaking of baskets, have you ever noticed that the carts seem to keep getting bigger? This isn't your imagination. Store carts have grown significantly over the decades. There's research, famously cited from a Paco Underhill study. He literally wrote the book on retail psychology called Why We Buy, showing that when shoppers use larger carts, they spend significantly more. Some estimates put it at 40% more, because a half-full large cart feels like you're being conservative. A small basket that's overflowing feels like you've gone overboard. The container shapes your perception of how much you're buying. This is before you've even thought about what you need. Now you're inside, and here's something almost nobody consciously notices. You almost always turn right. Studies on shopper movement patterns show that the overwhelming majority of people, when entering a store, naturally drift to the right and move counterclockwise through the store. Grocery stores are designed around this. The layout is built to take you on the longest possible journey before you reach the things you actually came for. Think about it. Where's the milk? Where's the bread? Where are the eggs? They're almost never at the front. They're almost never near each other. These are the highest frequency purchase items, the things most people come in specifically to buy, and they are deliberately placed at the back and corners of the store, separated from each other so that you have to walk through as much of the store as possible to collect them. Every aisle you walk down is another opportunity for a product to catch your eye. Every extra minute you spend in the store is statistically linked to more spending, and while you're walking that route, the products you see aren't randomly placed either. Eye-level shelving, the shelf you naturally look at without moving your head, is the most valuable real estate in the entire store. Brands pay premium slotting fees to be at eye level. The expensive name brands, the high-margin products, the items the store wants you to buy, those are right there, front and center, at the exact height your eyes land without any effort. The cheaper store brands, those are on the bottom shelf. The bulk deals, you have to crouch down and actually look for them. And most people never do because we are, by nature, creatures of convenience. Here's one that genuinely surprised me when I first really understood it: the music. Not just whether music is playing, but the tempo of that music. There's a classic study by a researcher named Charles Arini that found when slower tempo music was played in stores, customers spent significantly more time shopping and spent more money. Not a little more, meaningfully more. The music is calibrated. On busy weekends, you might notice the energy feels slightly different, slightly faster because they want turnover. On slower weekdays when they have time, slower music encourages you to linger. You are being paced. The soundtrack of your shopping trip is part of the design. And while we're on atmosphere, the lighting over fresh produce and meat sections is specifically engineered to make the colors look more vibrant, more appealing. The lighting over the bakery is warm and golden. The refrigerated sections are lit to make things look crisp and fresh. Every sensory experience in that building has been dialed in by someone who is not on your side. Now let's talk about what I think is the single most psychologically clever tactic in the entire playbook. And that's the concept of anchor pricing and the illusion of deals. You see a sign, it says 10 for $10, and something in your brain immediately thinks, I should buy 10 of these. But here's the thing. In most cases, you can buy just one for $1. The 10 for $10 framing is an anchor. It plants a quantity in your head and nudges you toward buying more than you need. Research by Brian Wansink at Cornell, and this man dedicated his career to understanding how we consume, found that these multi-unit pricing signs can increase sales dramatically even when the unit price is identical to buying a single item. And then there's the word sale. That red tag, that yellow banner, the word was $4.99, now $3.99. Your brain categorizes this as a win. You're saving money. Except, and this is the part that should genuinely annoy you, the item was never really worth $4.99 in most cases. Grocery stores regularly inflate the original price specifically so the sale price feels like a bargain. This practice, sometimes called high-low pricing, is completely legal and universally used. The real question to ask yourself at the shelf is never, how much am I saving? It's, do I actually need this? But the sale sign short-circuits that question. It bypasses logic and goes straight to the reward center of your brain. You feel smart. You feel like a savvy shopper. You're not saving money. You're spending money you didn't plan to spend. Just slightly less of it than a fictional original price. And then there's the checkout aisle. Oh, the checkout aisle. You've made it through the entire store. You've survived the flowers, the big cart, the winding route, the eye-level brands, the mood music. You are tired. Your decision-making capacity is genuinely depleted. This is a real psychological concept called decision fatigue, and it's been studied extensively. The more decisions you make throughout a day, the weaker your resistance to impulse becomes by the end. The grocery store knows this. That's why the checkout lane is lined with candy, gum, magazines, small gadgets, travel-sized products, and snacks. These aren't items people plan to buy. They are pure impulse bait, placed at the exact moment when your willpower is at its lowest ebb. This isn't a coincidence, it is deliberate. And for families with kids, the candy is placed at child eye level specifically so your kid sees it, wants it, and suddenly you're negotiating in a checkout line with a cart full of groceries and a 4-year-old who has identified a very specific gummy bear. Every single thing in that checkout lane has been optimized for the moment of maximum psychological vulnerability. So look, at this point you might be feeling a little bit played, and honestly you should feel a little bit played. Because the reality is, most of us have been walking into these environments our entire adult lives without understanding any of this, and it has cost us real money. Not fake, theoretical money. Actual dollars that could have gone toward your emergency fund, your investments, your vacation, paying off your car faster. If the average household is overspending by even $100 a month at the grocery store, and based on everything we've just covered, that's actually a conservative number. That's $1,200 a year. Over 10 years, if you'd invested that difference at a modest 8% return, you're looking at over $17,000 from grocery store psychology alone. This is why understanding this stuff matters, not because groceries are the biggest financial lever in your life, but because it represents something bigger, the idea that your spending decisions are being influenced in ways you can't see, and awareness is the first and most powerful weapon you have. So let's talk about the actual solutions, because I'm not going to spend 8 minutes telling you how you're being manipulated and then leave you hanging. First, and this one sounds almost insultingly simple, but the data is overwhelming on it, eat before you go. I know. You've heard this before, but here's the actual science behind why it matters. Hunger doesn't just make you want more food, it affects your decision-making across the board. A study published in Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that hungry individuals make more impulsive decisions in general, not just food-related ones. When you're hungry, you are literally operating with compromised judgment in a store that's designed to exploit compromised judgment. It's like going into a casino when you're tired and drunk. Eat first. Second, and this one will feel restrictive, but it is genuinely transformative, make a list and shop by category, not by aisle. Here's what I mean. Most people either shop without a list, or they write a list, and then wander the store aisle by aisle, picking up their items as they come across them. This is exactly what the store wants. You are taking the tour they designed for you. Instead, organize your list by category, produce, proteins, dairy, pantry, and move through the store with intention, not exploration. You're not browsing, you're completing a mission. The shift in mindset genuinely changes how you move through the space. Third, set a hard budget and use cash or a separate debit card with a fixed amount loaded onto it. There is research from MIT and multiple behavioral economists showing that paying with physical cash literally activates different parts of the brain than swiping a card. Cash feels real. A card feels abstract. When you load a specific amount onto a grocery card, you create a hard ceiling. You cannot overspend past it. The limit becomes the game. Fourth, look up and look down. Actively, consciously make yourself check the top and bottom shelves, not just eye level. In most grocery stores, the best value per unit, often the store brand, the bulk option, the better deal, is not at eye level. It's somewhere you have to make a small physical effort to reach. That small effort is the moat protecting your money. Cross it. Fifth, never shop on weekends if you can help it. Weekend grocery stores are crowded, energized, and subtly pressure you to move fast and make quick decisions. The more rushed you feel, the more impulsive your choices become. If you can shop on a Tuesday morning or a weekday evening, you'll move slower, think clearer, and spend less. And sixth, use a grocery calculator app or even just the calculator on your phone as you shop. Actively running a tally as you put things in the cart is psychologically powerful. It keeps you connected to the number. It removes the abstract quality of the total. When you hit your budget, you stop, not after checkout, during the shop. Look, none of these tactics require you to be a financial genius. None of them require a spreadsheet or a complicated system. What they require is awareness and understanding that the environment you're shopping in is not neutral. It is not designed for your benefit. It is an engineered extraction machine, and the people who run it are extraordinarily good at their job. The flowers are beautiful, the music is pleasant, the deals feel real, but now you know what all of it is actually for. And here's the motivating reality. If you implement even 3 of these strategies consistently, you will almost certainly spend $50 to $100 less per grocery trip. For a household shopping twice a week, that's between $400 and $800 a month back in your pocket. That is a car payment. That is a significant chunk of a credit card bill. That is real compounding wealth-building money sitting in a store you walk into voluntarily every single week. You already buy groceries. You already spend this money. The only difference between the person who walks out having spent $100 more than they needed to and the person who didn't is the knowledge of what's happening around them and the systems they've put in place to counter it. The store is playing a game. You just learned the rules. Now go win it.